5 years ago, I started running D&D 5th edition for the first time, and I knew nothing, and I wish there was so much someone could have told me before I even started to think about running D&D. So this video, I'm going to give you all the tips I wish I would have known before I started running D&D.
First thing you want to get is a Dungeon Master screen, a DM screen, GM screen. This one's mine. You put it up in front of you when you're running your games. This is more than just for looks, because on the back of this, I have it filled with a bunch of notes that I need, which means that you can have a bunch of notes that you need on the back of yours. I recommend putting down monster stats, the stats of your player characters, a list of skills, like all the skills that are in the game. Any rules that you find yourself frequently looking up, you can have on the back of this. It also helps cover up whatever mistakes you're making, which is probably going to be a lot because you're just starting. You don't have to buy a DM screen. You can just take two folders and like tape them or staple them together, put them up in front of you like this, and then boom, you got yourself a DM screen. Now next is combat. If you're starting to run D&D and you don't want to buy anything, you're probably going to be running Theater of the Mind combat, where all the combat just takes place in your imagination. Now normally in D&D, we use these things, dry erase whiteboards with the grid on it. These are also cool because they're dry erase. You can just, mark whatever you want to do, mark whatever the terrain there is, and you get an eraser, and then you erase it for the next combat. I recommend buying one of these, but maybe you don't want to buy any at all because you don't want to spend any money. Don't worry, I have an idea for you. Get yourself a chessboard or a checkerboard or whatever gridded board you have lying around. This is basically the same thing as the dry erase thing, except it's just not dry erase. It's still a grid. You can still use it as a grid. Most people just have chessboards lying around in their house. Why just let yours lie around? Get your chessboard or your checkerboard or whatever, your gridded board, and go out and use it. Next are, now if you're gonna be running D&D combat on the grid, you are probably going to want some minis. I recommend going on Amazon or whatever, your local game store, and getting yourself a bulk pack of generic minis. I did that and I have been using them my entire D&D career. I use these minis almost every single session. I have these player minis and I also have these bad guy minis, and they're perfect. But if you don't want to spend any money, you don't have to. You could use bottle caps, chess pieces, spare dice that you're not using because no one uses percentile dice, peanuts. If it fits in a 1 inch by 1 inch square, you might as well use it. One of the first DMs I had used a bag of aquarium pebbles. Every single session would just be these black aquarium pebbles. And we ran the game like that for a whole year and it was fine.
New camera, new lights, new me. Bit of advice for you, have a session 0. A session 0 is so important. Every single campaign that you start, have a session 0. What is a session 0? I'll tell you. A session 0 is a D&D session where you don't play D&D. You do it before you start the campaign. You just talk to your players about the kind of campaign that you want to run, the kind of characters that you want to make, and typically you make characters at your session 0. You talk about the kind of house rules you have, clarifying rules that the players don't really understand, because I'm assuming that they're also new to D&D. You lay out the map of the world or the location that the game is going to be running in, and you tell them about little bits about the world to give them inspiration for what kind of characters they want to make. Pitch the campaign like it's a movie. Tell them, yeah, it's going to be like Harry Potter, but there's a zombie apocalypse. And now they're thinking, oh, okay, I should probably play a wizard. Tell them that it's going to be like Suicide Squad in Skyrim. And then they're going, all right, so I'm gonna make a sort of morally gray misfit character. Now they have an idea of what the campaign is going to be like, and you have an idea of what their characters are gonna be like because they're making them right there in front of you. I think also the key piece of advice, an evergreen piece of advice that I would give to every DM, new and old, is maintain player agency. The worst feeling you can give your players ever is that they do not have a choice. What makes D&D such a great game is that it's not a video game. You don't have pre-scripted responses with a story that must be followed. You're a human who can react to the player's human choices. The game is violently unique to you and your players. Let them feel like the game that you're running for them is special and not able to be recreated. Remember, you are rooting for your players. You are their character's #1 fan. And you not only want them to succeed, but you want them to succeed spectacularly. If the players feel like they don't have a choice, then they're gonna get discouraged, they're gonna sink into their chairs, and they're not gonna wanna play. If there's any point where your players feel upset over something happening, and you're worried that it's your fault, think to yourself, did they have a choice? And how apparent was that decision? And if they didn't have a choice, if what happened to them had nothing to do with the decisions that they made, then that's on you, and you need to correct that kind of DMing. My next bit of D&D advice that greatly improved my DMing: watch a lot of D&D YouTube. Okay, I know how that sounds. Of course, I would want you to watch as much D&D YouTube as possible, but I'm telling you, it genuinely helps. You, as a new DM, are starting off with zero experience. What I did when I had zero experience was I watched YouTube videos about D&D. It didn't matter what it was. It could have been skits, advice videos, story times, horror stories, anything that was D&D related, I would watch. This tells you what other groups are doing, the common advice veteran DMs are giving, and also what can go wrong and how to rectify that. It's like synthetic experience. It's like experience but not. This brings me to my next bit of advice, which is steal everything. Artistic integrity is not your friend. You are not making a product to be sold where you have to own all the intellectual copyright. No, you can just steal things. In fact, I heavily encourage stealing things. Steal from movies, steal from books. Just rip the things that you like and put it in your D&D campaign. This could be characters, locations, plot lines, settings, items, plot twists. Whatever you think is neat, just rip it and put it right in your game. One summer, I got really into the Odyssey, like Homer's Odyssey, and I made the campaign I was running into an island hopping campaign, and it was a lot of fun. Your friends aren't gonna call you out on stealing. Your friends probably enjoy the things that you are stealing from because they're your friends. They share the same things that you enjoy, which means they're probably going to enjoy the campaign more when you steal from things that you just enjoy. Theme and genre are your friends. Another bit of advice: the session is gonna end. Sometimes, most of the times, your players are gonna go completely off the rails. And if you're doing your job right, you're gonna have to improvise for that entire session. What a lot of new DMs would try to do is set up roadblocks some sort of way to prevent the players from railroading the game. You don't wanna do this. Let the players do whatever they want for the rest of the session. Just go with it. All you have to do is improvise for however long that session is gonna be. Once the session ends, ask the players what they plan on doing next. Now you have an entire week to plan out how the next session is gonna go. You have a whole week to course correct your players and funnel them back into the campaign you already had planned, or to plan out a whole new different campaign depending on how the last session went. That's all the advice that I have for you. If you are a new DM and you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment. I'm small enough so that I can just read all the comments that are there because there's only like 5 of them. If you're just starting on planning your campaign, I made a video about planning your campaigns from level 1 to 20, and you should watch that now that you're done with this video. If you want to consistently get D&D content where you get advice like this, you should subscribe to the channel. Leave a like if you want to see the little confetti pop, like the YouTube thing where you hit the like button and the little confetti comes out. That gives me dopamine. Thank you to Emma and Sarah P for being the patrons. They are the highest tier of $8. Which is insane. I do plan on running a campaign for all of my highest tier patrons, so they are definitely going to be in there. More videos like this are coming up, so subscribe. Where's the off button? Is this the off? No, that's not. Where's the... Here.